Gogeta is a far simpler character to talk about using official statements, because the statements that are provided about him are far more consistent and also far more definitive than Vegito's. Vegito is problematic, as I already explained in the last video, due to the fact that you have to do two different routes to explain how he is potentially stronger as a Super Saiyan 4 in his base form or in his Super Saiyan state. Gogeta, by comparison, does not really have that problem, nor does he suffer from the issue of he's this much stronger in the manga than the anime does this thing. And while Gogeta probably isn't scaled the same way in GT as he is in the 12th Z movie, the statement that we have from Dragon Ball GT makes so much sense that you could easily apply it to Fusion Reborn as well, though I'm always hesitant to talk about the Z movies because they use very obviously different kinds of scaling in comparison to the anime and especially the manga. But in this instance, you can very easily take the GT statements I'm about to provide and apply them to Fusion Reborn as well, and it would make a lot of sense, at least it does for me. So we have two statements for Gogeta's abilities that come from the GT Perfect Files Volume 2, and they both basically say the same thing, that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is the fusion of Goku and Vegeta, also in their Super Saiyan 4 states. He can combine the Kamehameha Wave and the Big Bang attack into one ultimate attack. He is the strongest character of them all, and he is many tens, or in one instance dozens of times stronger than a regular Super Saiyan 4. This basically tells us Gogeta is anywhere between 20 to around slightly over 90 times stronger than Goku and Vegeta individually. This makes a lot of sense, not just for his performance against Omega Shenron, or Y Jin Long, I think he's called. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation on that, which I probably did, but also his performance against Super Janemba, who was able to pretty easily beat the crap out of SS2 Vegeta and SS3 Goku, but was, as we all know, pretty effortlessly obliterated by Gogeta's strength. That is pretty much the range of Gogeta's abilities. He's anywhere between a 20 to 90 times increase to Goku and Vegeta individually, which brings us to the big part of why I wanted to do this originally as a singular, longer video, but then opted to do it in two parts, and that is the comparison between Vegito and Gogeta using the numbers that I've calculated for these characters, comparing their strengths in relation to one another. And just from the statements that we have about base Vegito's power increase, how he's way stronger than a Super Saiyan 3, which is already hundreds of times stronger than Goku and Vegeta's base forms, we can pretty definitively say that Vegito is much, much stronger than Gogeta. Remember, Gogeta is an increase of anywhere between 20 to 90 times, maybe slightly over that, but he's not even 100 times stronger than them in any one of their forms, whereas base Vegito is already quite a bit stronger than a Super Saiyan 3, which is a 400 times increase. So I think this is pretty definitive proof that Vegito is in fact the stronger fusion, and this is not very surprising because even the old Kaioshin says that the Potara yields bigger strength increases, and it's also just more convenient to use, because with the dance you need two people with comparable power levels, then you need to have two people who have to do the coordinated dance and all that stuff, whereas the Potara Fusion is basically just put a couple earrings on and boom, you're fused. Though of course the Potara Fusion has its own set of issues where if two people are vastly different in terms of power and abilities, the fusion might not be as strong as it should be, or it could even make someone potentially weaker, as Goku thinks when he considers fusing with Mr. Satan would do to him. So there are nuances and intricacies to both fusions, but I think that given the statements that are provided even in the manga and then in official guidebooks and statements, that it makes a lot of sense for Vegito to be quite considerably stronger than Gogeta. However, there is one thing that people do bring up when comparing these two characters together, and that is the fact that Gogeta was supposed to be in the manga. Yes, the original intent for the Buu arc was that Goku and Vegeta were going to fuse, but they were going to do the dance and they would have become Gogeta instead. Vegito was never even supposed to exist as a character, nor was the Potara Fusion concept. However, Toriyama was aware of the fact that Toei were going to make Gogeta the big selling point and story beat of the 12th Z movie, and he didn't want to steal their thunder by having Gogeta show up in the manga first. So he went back to the drawing board, and he basically made the Potara earrings, which were just ordinary earrings originally, into a new kind of fusion, which would basically allow him to do what he wanted, fuse Goku and Vegeta together, but do it in a different enough way and result in a different character so that he could get the same story beat, but without stepping on Toei's toes. And because of the fact that Gogeta was originally going to just do everything Vegito was, at least as far as we know, which isn't very much, a lot of people tend to assume that that Gogeta would just be as strong as Vegito, that everything Vegito does in the manga and anime can be applied to a hypothetical Gogeta fusion, and that the strength difference between them is minimal or negligible or just somewhat and very much exaggerated. And I can understand both sides of the argument. I can understand why people would just say, oh, since Gogeta was just supposed to be a Vegito and he would just do everything Vegito does, that means they're basically the same power level. However, we don't really know what Toriyama would have done with Gogeta. Like, it is pretty sensible and even kind of expected, given Toriyama's writing, especially at this stage of the manga, to assume, oh, he would have just had Gogeta do everything Vegito does, and that's why we can say that they're equal in terms of power and abilities. And that's not an unreasonable statement to have, but we don't know what the plan was. All we know is that Gogeta was supposed to be in the manga, but whether or not that would have resulted in him just beating the shit out of Buhan with like restrained or held back Super Saiyan power, or would he have like transformed into a Super Saiyan 3 or done something like that, we don't know. And I think the fact that Toriyama goes out of his way in the manga to even say that Potara Fusion is a stronger fusion, I think yields more to the fact that Vegito is just an inherently stronger character, even in Toriyama's version, where Gogeta doesn't technically appear, though Goku does offer it to Vegeta when they're inside Super Buu. Vegeta just says he doesn't want to do it, and so the idea dies there. But yeah, there is that part of production history that does kind of muddy the waters, and while I can understand why people would just assume Toriyama would have just given Gogeta all of Vegito's feats and abilities and performances, maybe even personality, we don't know. And I'm all about using what definitive information we do have to cut through the bullshit. So that's why I'm obviously going to say at the end that Gogeta is just much weaker than Vegito, but that's not really a knock or even a condemnation against the character, nor is it me praising Vegito. Like I said, I'm just using the numbers provided for me and making my own assumptions off of that. And from what we can see, Gogeta is quite substantially weaker than his Potara Fusion counterpart. Do you guys agree with that assessment? Do you have perhaps different information that I'm not privy to, maybe from the El Manga Legendario? If you do, please comment down below, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye.